In this laundry room at her first apartment, 19-year-old Trisha Meredith was murdered April 7th, 1986.
This guy come on to her, and she told him that she didn't like his advances. And then I think that he didn't like what she said and started stabbing her, and then shoved her into this little closet space and continued to stab her 20 times and cut her throat.
This all happened behind big windows 25 years ago in front of a parking lot full of people on a spring day.
They had no clues. There was no murder weapon found. As far as DNA goes, DNA wasn't even a thing back in '86. Who knows how long this is going to take? Oh, I know he's out there, and I hope he's listening. I refuse to stop. I won't stop till the day I die.
Indianapolis, like many other cities, has its fair share of unsolved crimes and mysteries. As it seems the majority of cases I cover in this series are from the 80s, this one is no exception. In today's video, I am going to be sharing the odd and tragic details of an unsolved slaying of a 19-year-old while she was simply doing her laundry. This is the unsolved story of who killed Trisha Meredith. Before we get into the more depressing details of this story, let us get more acquainted with Trisha. Trisha K. Meredith had been dating her boyfriend David Fain for a little over a year when they decided to move in together. They had recently moved in only 2 weeks before the tornado of confusion would strike. Trisha was 19 years old at the time, and this had been her first time living away from home. Safe to say, she was starting her life. Her mom made mention that she was slightly nervous about moving out, but was overall excited to start a life with David. Trisha's family all stated that she and David always seemed to be very much in love. Apparently, Trisha and David had met while working at a grocery store in the local area. According to friends from her local high school she recently graduated from, Trisha was very well liked by just about everyone. Now that we know a bit more about Trisha and her life, let's get into the story. It was a typical day on April 7th, 1986, when Trisha and David decided to get some chores done. They went to wash their clothes in the apartment communal laundry room. From what I could find, they did this sometime around 6 p.m., and they loaded their clothes into the washing machines. Sometime around 6:15 p.m., David went back to the apartment to make a phone call to a relative. Trisha was left alone to make sure no one took their laundry. It would be a short time later at around 6:45 p.m. when David would return to the laundry room. What David walked into is something straight out of the movies. When David walked into the laundry room, he saw no sign of Trisha, but he did find blood absolutely everywhere. There was blood on the floor, the washers, the dryers, and even the closet. David noticed the blood from the closet seemed to be pooling though, so he opened the closet door to find Trisha hidden inside. Trisha had been stabbed upwards of 20 times in the chest, neck, and stomach. Freaking out, David drags her from the closet and lays her on the floor. He runs to his apartment to call Trisha's mom, who called 911. Now, this is a weird detail to me. I know 1986 was a very different time and all, but if you just found your girlfriend practically mutilated, wouldn't you call police, immediately? As luck would have it, a police officer was in the area at the time. He got to the apartment at around 7 p.m., and upon arriving at the scene, the police officer noted that David waved him down and had blood covering his hands. David took the officer to the scene, and upon further investigation, it seemed Trisha had been stabbed roughly 24 times. Serious overkill, which is another odd detail to keep in the back of your mind. Her throat had been slit several times. Again, serious overkill and extremely violent for seemingly no reason. She was determined to not have been sexually assaulted, but from the way her clothes looked, officials think this may have been the original motive. Maybe Trisha fought back and made it harder than the attacker thought, and he panicked. Another detail to make note of is that the investigators thought Trisha may have tried to hide behind the washers to get away from her attacker. There are little to no details about her attack, and even fewer about much else to do with this case online. Luckily, after a long night of digging, I found more information about the timeline of the crime. So let's piece this together. The particular washing machines in question run on a 25-minute cycle. David left at 6:15 p.m., which means the clothes had been running for about 10 minutes already. When David returned at 6:45 p.m., the clothes were already in the dryer at that point. This means Trisha would have had to still be alive after the washing was done, which leaves an incredibly narrow time frame for a brutal crime like this to take place. Now, I know what you're all probably thinking. Swamp, are you saying the boyfriend did it? No, not really. But at the same time, the timeline really doesn't look good in his favor. At least at this point, that is. There are a few suspects, however. David Fain was one of them at the start. Investigators searched their apartment that night and found nothing that would really suggest David had done anything, much less a murder. Officials looked into David's phone records and could see that he had made a 25-minute phone call to his grandmother at about 6:17 p.m. This ultimately cleared him as a suspect in the minds of investigators. Not far from the apartments there is a golf course. Golfers at this course who were playing a game at the time claimed they had heard some screams but assumed nothing of it. They said they heard these screams sometime around 6:30 p.m., which would be 15 minutes after David had left the laundry room. The scream was rather long, apparently. The golfers claimed it lasted roughly around 10 seconds or longer. Officials would go on to say they had two other people of interest that they were looking into. These two men lived in the same apartment building as Trisha. The only thing I could really find tying the men to this crime potentially was that they both had been in the laundry room that day and DNA from one of the men was found in the room. They both claimed they had nothing to do with what happened to Trisha, and since both of them lived in the building, it would be very easy to explain any physical evidence left behind by them. In 1986, though, officials used search warrants to gain access to one of the men's apartments. This man's name was William RADACKER. His apartment was directly across the street from Trisha's. In this search, officials took 2 knives, a pair of shoes, and a rubber glove. William initially said he would take a lie detector test, but when it came time to do the said test, William refused and directed officials to his attorney. That definitely seems like something an innocent man would do, don't you think? The case would sadly go cold for a number of years after this. This is the exact reason I wanted to cover this case, though. There is no reasonable excuse that this crime could not be solved. I understand back in the 80s, media and DNA were not very strong in these investigations yet. But with how weird William RADACKER was acting, I would have done a bit more digging into him and his background. There are some updates on this case, though. In 2012, upwards of 100 pieces of evidence were sent in for DNA testing. Sadly, though, nothing seems to have come from this. Not to say nothing was found, but from what I can find, nothing of significance had been found. Trisha's family has been dedicated to finding the culprit and bringing justice for Trisha. Sadly, only a few months after Trisha died, her mother would also pass away of a heart attack in her brother's arms. Her father also passed away since then. This makes me very sad to know they never got closure. Trisha's brother, Brandon, has spent years investigating his sister's case. He held yearly vigils for her as well as offered a cash reward for any information that would help solve his sister's murder. Unfortunately, like his parents, Brandon would pass away from a heart attack in 2012 before getting closure of any answers for his sister. Ultimately, the police are 100% sure someone had to have seen something or heard something in that building that day. They are in hopes that the longer time passes, the braver someone will get and come forward with information. Sadly, though, I personally feel the longer that time goes on, the less of a chance we have to bring justice to Trisha Meredith.
Brandon says he's trying to get the money together to put together some billboards on the west side of town to highlight not only his sister's case, but other cases of unsolved murders from the 1980s.
Who knows how long this is going to take? Oh, I know he's out there, and I hope he's listening. I refuse to stop.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button as it helps me out a ton. The more likes this video gets, the more YouTube promotes it to fresh new eyes, and we can use all the help we can to get the word out on this case. If you're new to the swamp, why not join us and hit that subscribe button? Turn on notifications to never miss a new upload. I upload new videos almost every single day, and all things natural and supernatural. What are your thoughts on this case? Personally, there seem to be red flags all over the place, but I can't really decide who I think did it. I'd love to know your theories in the comment section below. I'd love to know more about William RADACKER as well. If you're not aware, you can download Swamp Dweller Scary Stories on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, and every other podcasting platform out there. Thank you guys as always for supporting the channel the way you do. I'll see you guys soon with another creepy video.
This is the last good picture Brandon Meredith has with his sister before she was murdered.
It's been devastating. It's ripped my whole family apart.
In this laundry room at her first apartment, 19-year-old Trisha Meredith was murdered April 7th, 1986. This all happened behind big windows 25 years ago in front of a parking lot full of people on a spring day.